You said, this isn't just about better models. We also have to build. We have to have world-class builders. And you said, the most world-class builder maybe that we have in the country is Elon Musk. And we talked about Colossus One and what he was doing there, standing up a couple 100,000, at the time, H100s, H200s in a coherent cluster. Now he's working on Colossus 2, which may be 500,000 GBs, millions of H100 equivalents in a coherent cluster.
I would not be surprised if he gets to a gigawatt before anybody else does.
Right.
In one.
Yeah, so say a little bit about that. The advantage of being, the builder who, isn't just building the software and the models, but understands what it takes to build those clusters.
Well, these AI supercomputers are complicated things. Yeah. The technology is complicated. Procuring it is complicated because of financing issues. Securing the land power and shell powering it is complicated. Building it all, bringing it all up. I mean, this is unquestionably the most complex systems problem humanity has ever endeavored. And so Elon has a great advantage that in his head, all of these systems are interoperating, and the interdependencies resides in one head,
yes,
including the financing.
Yes.
And so
he's a big GPT. Yeah. He's a big supercomputer himself.
He's the ultimate GPU. Yeah. Yeah. And so he has a great advantage there.
Yeah.
And he has a great sense of urgency. He has a real desire to build it, and so when will comes together with skill, unbelievable things can happen.
Welcome to Electrified. It's your host, Dylan Loomis. So Elon confirmed what we talked about yesterday when it comes to that new patent that has to do with the unboxed process. He said, what matters is that the cycle time of the overall production process can get to around 10 seconds, and there is a path to cars coming off the line every 5 seconds. I posted about Tesla taking this new path based on physics first principles long ago. By the way, anyone is welcome to copy it. Our patents are open source. So this from Elon was perfect timing after that episode Wednesday, because we covered everything here. How Tesla might pull off cycle times like this, and how far ahead of the rest of the industry Tesla will be. How Elon has mentioned the alien dreadnought and that micron level precision for upcoming factories. And the fact that Tesla oftentimes pursues these patents as a defensive strategy so the competition can't box Tesla out. And as we know, given Tesla's mission, it sounds like Tesla would not go after anybody trying to pursue this approach, but as we talked about, most other companies likely will not be pursuing this anytime soon. Jason from the All In Pod was talking up some of his recent FSD drives on Hardware 4 and FSD version 13, to which Elon responded saying version 14 goes into early wide release next week, then 14.1 about 2 weeks later, and finally 14.2. The car will feel almost like it's a sentient being by 14.2. First of all, what Elon said is confusing when you pay close attention, because he said early wide release, which usually doesn't make sense. It's typically early access first, and then it goes to wide release later. So I'm not sure if Elon made a mistake here or what, but my expectation is that sometime next week, the early access group will get FSD version 14 and will start to get some videos. There will likely be a week or two of testing with that group, and then maybe 14.1 does actually become the one that goes to a wide release, which based on this timeline, let's just call that the middle of October. And then of course for 14.2 finally doesn't really give us any sort of time frame from there. And to add the Elon time premium, I would just be expecting that most of us with AI4 vehicles will have version 14 sometime toward the end of October. Naturally, there's plenty of chatter about if this will be the version where the safety drivers and monitors are removed, and if this is the one for unsupervised for the customer fleet. To that, I would say there's a good chance, and here's why. Tesla released version 13 back in November 2024, meaning once version 14 goes out, it will have been roughly 1 year between release dates. Elon has said the latest expectation is that Tesla will remove the safety drivers and monitors toward the end of this year, which will certainly be on version 14, and assuming a similar cadence, maybe FSD version 15 comes out toward the end of 2026, I do think there's a real chance the software is ready for customer cars to have unsupervised sometime next year. But you already know what I'm about to say. It depends on the state-by-state regulations. Hopefully, the federal framework for autonomous vehicles makes significant progress over the next 12 months, but only time will tell. And no, I'm not basing these projections off of one data point, because remember, FSD version 12 was also released to Tesla employees in November 2023, roughly 1 year before version 13, meaning FSD versions 12, 13, and 14 have each had roughly 1 year in between. So yes, that's why I'm pretty confident this version will be the one that removes the safety drivers and monitors and allows for unsupervised on parts of the customer fleet, even if it's small pockets across the country. And for all of you out there with a hardware 3 vehicle, there is a segment coming later in this episode that will hopefully give you a glimmer of hope for what Tesla might be able to do to give you guys a new update as well. In Australia, Tesla has discontinued the enhanced autopilot package for all customers, new and old. There was some reporting it was only canceled for newer hardware for Teslas, but that is not the case. The only way in Australia to newly acquire enhanced autopilot is to buy a certified pre-owned vehicle in stock on the Tesla website. But of course, with FSD going wide across Australia for AI for vehicles, there's really no need to keep EAP around. There was an Australian article with the title "Why Tesla's FSD is a Nuclear Moment," and Elon shared this, saying this is still just version 13. Going to the Australian review itself, they said, once you've driven with FSD for any length of time, it's hard to imagine life without it. Elon and Tesla have changed the way we drive forever. There's no looking back. We put it through a weekend of challenging traffic situations, road work, merging, disappearing lanes, 6-way intersections, Saturday sport traffic, Sunday go slow drivers, and the system negotiated them all with nuance and aplomb. Indeed, it is so good, its ease of use and stress-free experience might even convince my 40-something wife to finally get her driver's license. It's that good. So we know Elon has said version 14 should have 10 times the number of model parameters when compared to version 13. But as I've said numerous times, that doesn't mean this model will be 10 times better. But since that data is what everyone is wondering about, what we do know is that Elon said version 14 could be 2 to 3 times safer than the average human driver. And Elon has also implied that version 13 is already close to or at human level performance. So yes, version 14 could be 2 to 3 times better than version 13, which clearly is already pretty impressive for many people. How about these comments from Xiaomi's CEO? We bought 3 Model Ys for disassembly and research inside Xiaomi earlier this year. What a great vehicle. He also noted consumers who don't like Xiaomi's YU7 should strongly consider a Model Y instead. Lei Jun also admitted the Model Y is actually a leading vehicle in several important metrics like energy consumption and tech features like FSD. It is the world's best-selling vehicle not simply because of Elon's fame, and there's a lot to it. We tore down the Model Y and analyzed it. There's a lot to learn from the Model Y. He said Tesla is indeed amazing, leading the industry trends in many areas, especially FSD. We still have to continue learning. Can you imagine Mary Barra ever saying anything along those lines? I have some quick pro tips for a lot of you that have now signed up for Delete Me. If you go to the privacy tools page, you can search yourself by name, address, email, company, etc. And as you see here, users can provide feedback to Delete Me on which results and data that they would like to remove and or keep. Users can also assist in providing context to Delete Me on which data is not actually them. And scrolling down to the search results, I'm not going to dox myself here, but you can keep a listing, remove it, or tell Delete Me it's not you. If you're new, Delete Me sponsors the channel, and part of the reason I chose to work with them is the rise of nefarious actors online. If you're not familiar with the data broker industry, just take 5 minutes sometime and have a look for yourself. I am confident that alone will have you eager to get started with Delete Me. In short, Delete Me does the legwork of removing your personal information from data brokers online, saving you hundreds if not thousands of hours every year. They send detailed detailed quarterly reports showing you the status of each removal and how many listings were reviewed and removed. The user interface is super easy to use, and anytime you have an information change, you can just update your datasheet profile right here. And on the dashboard, they have key information and tips for how to further protect your online presence. Plus, their customer service has been excellent, very responsive if you have any questions or special requests. So if you want some peace of mind and to get your privacy back, and of course to support Electrified, you can head to joindeleteme.com/electrified to get 20% off using my code Electrified linked below or by using the QR code on the screen. So here it is. Tesla finally publicly admits something I have been arguing for months. Tesla is now urging the Trump administration not to repeal vehicle emission standards or the long-standing U.S. finding that greenhouse gas emissions endanger human health. Tesla said the EPA's proposal to repeal the standards would give a pass to engine and vehicle manufacturers for all measurement, control, and reporting of GHG emissions for any highway engine and vehicle. Earlier this week, a group including Toyota, VW, and nearly all other major automakers asked the EPA to roll back its aggressive vehicle emissions limits that seek to force the industry to build a rising number of EVs. Tesla stands to lose billions of dollars in regulatory credits sold in the coming years. Last year, Tesla received $2.8 billion in global revenue from earning regulatory credits. And yes, I checked, that's accurate. And Tesla said this: the EPA's proposed action undermines the stability of that ZEV program, diminishes the value of performance-based incentives that EV manufacturers accrue under the standards, and creates an uneven playing field, reducing the inducement for investment in vehicle innovation. In 2019, Tesla began spending $25 per vehicle to generate credits by using environmentally friendly air conditioning. This investment ultimately amounted to tens of millions of dollars when scaled over millions of vehicles produced in North America since this time, that according to Tesla. So what does Tesla mean when they're talking about this uneven playing field? Simply put, these regulatory changes that are effectively a rollback disproportionately disadvantage the manufacturers that have already heavily invested in ZEV technology. You know, the ones that were actually following the rules and trying to do the right thing. And to date, companies like Tesla that have been over compliant have been benefiting, earning those performance-based credits. And now manufacturers that delayed investments in EVs are going to benefit from these lowered compliance burdens without having to incur those similar costs or investments into EVs, which obviously will reduce the overall incentives for the rest of the industry to keep pushing forward new vehicle innovation. And don't forget, in July, the administration told automakers they would face no fines for failing to meet fuel efficiency rules dating back to 2022. And in June, the administration signed a resolution that would bar California's landmark plan to end the sale of gas-only vehicles by 2035. So no, I'm not saying Tesla's ZEV credit revenue is going to zero overnight. Some of it still comes from global sources, not just the US. And it will take time for this program to fully phase out. But as many analysts have predicted, the days of Tesla earning billions of dollars from ZEV credits is likely coming to an end. Now, yes, these analysts were way off with the timing by 5+ years, but most importantly, they were wrong on the reason. They said it would be because the rest of the industry starts selling EVs at scale, but the real reason is because the Trump administration is set to roll back the emission standards. Now look, with Robotaxi and Optimus long term, this really is not that big of a deal. But guess what? If you're somebody that wants to breathe cleaner air, if you're somebody that wants to have quieter streets, then this is a big deal because legacy auto is now going to be even less incentivized to work hard to build good EVs. So from that standpoint, yeah, I think you could classify this as a disaster. Now, for the glimmer of hope for Hardware 3 owners, here is that segment. Recently, I explained the concept of sparsity after James Dauma called it out. This after we got the first public confirmation that Tesla was using sparsity in its neural networks for FSD. But now I want to build on that because I really do think understanding these concepts, at least at a high level, will be very valuable. Not just to know what Tesla is actually doing in the AI realm, but to understand how difficult it will be for the competition to mimic. especially without world-class machine learning talent. So I want to help everyone understand this mixture of experts that James Dalma mentioned. This MOE is the more common and more effective method of sparsity being used today. James said with MOE, your model is trained to be conditionally sparse in that for a given input, only a subset of the total parameters are used. These subsets of parameters are gathered together into bundles called experts. And then when performing inference, only a minority of all the experts in the whole model are used, and the system only needs to perform the computation for those experts. I put this little diagram together. When it comes to this mixture of experts, we have to remember there are hundreds of billions of parameters in Tesla's neural net for FSD. So running inference from the vehicles on Tesla's chip, whether hardware 3 or AI 4, can be quite compute intensive, which is where something like MOE comes in. Again, it's just a machine learning approach that divides an AI model into separate sub-networks, these experts. Each expert focuses on a subset of the input data, which in Tesla's case would be video feeds from the cameras, and then only relevant experts are activated for a given task rather than using the entire network for every operation. Now, in between the inputs, the video data, and the model choosing which expert to run, you have this gating network. Think of this like a manager, someone that determines which employees get which work. So the gating network, which can also be called the router, will process the input, the video data, and output a set of weights. And it's these weights that determine the contribution of each expert to the final outcome. And of course, the outputs are the driving decisions. But why this technique and structure matters so much is because think of this model having 3,000 experts. If you had to run inference from the car to process information from 3,000 experts, all of which have their own compute requirements, that obviously is going to make things much more difficult for hardware 3 or AI 4. But with mixture of experts and sparsity and all of these strategies on the software side, Tesla will have a chance to quantize the model to basically compress it down to enable at least a variant of the frontier model on older hardware. And back to Dalma, if you train the model to have 64 experts, but you only use 4 of them for any given input, then inference is 16 times less I/O input-output for each input. 64 divided by 4 is 16. Different inputs require different experts, but no individual input requires more than 4. Because I/O is the limiting factor for large models, this can give you a speed up of as much as 16 times. And you can imagine how this gating network becomes such a critical function because as it routes all of those inputs, if it's choosing the same experts over and over early on, then those experts are going to become overtrained and the others will be undertrained, which will reduce the overall effectiveness of the model. So just know this, these software training techniques are all learned and refined and iterated and adjusted over time by Tesla. It's largely what they've been doing with all of that video input data. So just think about all of the other companies that will undoubtedly make announcements that they're going to pursue this end-to-end approach like Tesla. Okay, that's great, but remember, Tesla has billions of miles of real-world video footage flowing through its neural net and training and refining its mixture of experts approach. So this gating network becomes excellent at knowing how to route these different inputs. And there's so much more here, but this video would be multiple hours long, but things like load balancing, where you can't let the gating network do the routing to the same expert over and over, which is hard not to do, because the gating network chooses which experts to use based on the likelihood that expert will give the proper output. And so Tesla has to engineer a way to ensure that the gating network doesn't rely on the same experts over and over, leading the other experts and other parameters undertrained. So yeah, sorry if that was a little long-winded, but this stuff really blows my mind when I try to dive into it. And more importantly, for purposes of this channel, I become increasingly confident that no one else is going to solve for generalized autonomy anytime soon. Effective October 16th, the DRC has lifted its suspension on cobalt exports. That has been replaced with a strict quota system that will govern mined output and exports until at least 2027. The DRC produces over 70% of global cobalt. And we know Tesla has been trending away from using cobalt, especially from places like the DRC, but Tesla is still partially reliant on cobalt. Right now, there are global stockpiles of cobalt, so these limits are expected to help shift the market from a surplus to a potential deficit starting next year, which obviously will establish a higher price floor for cobalt. And cobalt prices have already jumped about 60% since the ban started. So nothing major here, just a reminder that things are always shifting for Tesla's input costs, and it's all the more reason for Tesla to speed run its own LFP production, which uses no cobalt. But for higher performance battery packs, Tesla does still have some exposure to these markets. Shifting to battery storage, of 55 listed Chinese companies in the energy storage sector, 47 were profitable, with 31 reporting year-over-year growth in net profit. Chinese energy storage companies secured 199 new overseas orders in the first half of this year, with a total capacity exceeding 160 gigawatt hours. This a year-over-year increase of 220%. And those are just overseas orders. A lot of those orders going across Europe, and they said energy storage has truly evolved from a passive supporting player in the past to a market-driven stage with enhanced profitability and increased certainty. A secretary general from China believes surging demand in Europe and the US, driven by policy incentives, rapidly expanding markets in the Middle East and Australia, and unlocking significant potential in emerging markets are making the global growth trajectory of the energy storage industry increasingly clear. Overall, global energy storage is expected to maintain an average annual growth rate of around 30% over the next 3 years. This is what I mean when I say there is plenty of room for more than one company to succeed. And we learned Copec Flux and Tesla have entered into a historic alliance to promote large-scale energy storage in Chile. They said, "We became Tesla's first certified service partner in Chile, with technicians and engineers trained directly in the US, which allows us to operate with the highest standards of quality, efficiency, and safety." Storage is the next big leap in energy development, and doing so hand in hand with Tesla gives us access to world-class technology with unique standards of efficiency and safety. As you can see, this partnership is going to start on a smaller scale, but the good news is Chile is rapidly expanding its renewable energy efforts. Plus, Tesla has already supplied some other deals in the region. There's a 912 megawatt hour project already using Tesla's Megapacks. So I would certainly expect this partnership to grow over time. And would you look at this, as Sawyer pointed out, Tesla is now running paid ads for people to buy vehicles to take advantage of the tax credit before the end of the month. Tesla has some new items on the Tesla shop, like this Core backpack for $185. They also have some other new travel gear as well. Some customers are being invited to pick up their new vehicles at Giga Texas as the delivery center is finally open. As part of this experience, those people will also get 24-hour access to Tesla's robotaxi service in Austin for that day. You're welcome to bring up to 2 guests during your rides, but you must remain present with them at all times. And they still called out Tesla's robotaxi app is currently unsupported on Android devices. And the mini Cybertruck little test loop for children is officially active. Now just watch this kid after he finishes his ride. Pretty fired up. Joe Tetmeyer shared production and new vehicle inventory is off the charts at Giga Texas. This is the most new vehicles at Giga Texas at the same time I have observed this year. So the end of quarter push is fully underway. And of course, everybody's expecting a blowout quarter from Tesla in quarter 3. The financials should be very strong this quarter, which yes, will be nice temporarily, but as we all know, this is not what the projection or outlook is going to be like for the next few quarters. As of October 1st, Trump will be imposing a 25% tariff on all heavy trucks made in other parts of the world. Now, this applies to complete imported trucks rather than explicitly to parts. But this should actually help make the Tesla Semi marginally more attractive, because yes, it's made here in the US and will not face that tariff. And Tesla is now in the middle of a hiring ramp for the Semi. Right now, there are 111 job listings, whereas roughly 1 week ago, there were only 80. Gavin Newsom just took some shots at Mary Barra. He blamed GM and Mary for the rollback of EV subsidies. He said it's not about EVs, it's about economic transformation, and this country has ceded that to China. GM sold us out, Mary Barra sold us out. The Republicans rolled it back this year, but the American automobile manufacturers allowed that to happen. GM led that effort. And look, on this one, he's not wrong. As we covered, most of the auto industry has been pressuring the administration to roll back those standards. Tesla, one of the only companies that was not.
So let's just first talk about this investment or additional investment by GM. I think over $600 million. How meaningful is that to this project?
It's very meaningful. It essentially, with that, along with the cash we have on hand and a loan we're closing with the U.S. government, we're essentially fully funded. We're already in construction. We've been in construction for over a year, but this will allow us to accelerate to meet our timeline to be in full production by the end of 2027. And I'll remind the folks, if they're not familiar with Thacker Pass, it's the largest known lithium deposit in North America. It's third largest in the world, and it's right in our front yard. It helps to secure our economic and national security of this country, and a critical material, not unlike rare earths or nickel or copper, which we basically offshored for the last 40 or 50 years. This is the only project that's been permitted in this country in over 60 years. And it's the largest lithium deposit on the continent, as I said before, and third largest in the world. So it's critical for a myriad of things that we do. Yes, it's important for electric vehicles, not only hybrid vehicles, but also fully electric vehicles too.
And the Trump administration isn't just taking a stake in the Thacker Pass mine, but it's in talks to take stakes in multiple critical minerals companies. The negotiations largely involve Department of Energy grants and loans for companies that mine and process the metals and components used in batteries. Government officials have asked for equity stakes in the business before releasing money. So look, we'll wait and see if these get finalized, and if they do, we'll have to see if they actually pan out. But it's pretty clear a lot of these companies are in the midst of a cash crunch as demand for EVs is expected to slow. And just to be clear, administrations from both political parties have made loans and bailed out companies, if that's how you want to frame it. The bullish thought process goes, if a company ends up doing well, Americans stay employed, taxes are paid, and the economy grows. I know some of you are going to jump down in the comments, but just remember, the last administration gave $9.6 billion to Ford to build battery plants. They gave $15 billion to Pacific Gas and Electric for a hydropower project, and $6.5 billion to Rivian for its new plant in Georgia. But yeah, I'm sure we'll hear a lot more about this moving forward. The U.S. General Services Administration, GSA, announced a major OneGov agreement with xAI, making Grok AI models accessible to federal agencies for only 42 cents per organization. This unique offer is in place for 18 months. And xAI is dedicating engineers to assist participating agencies with rapidly and effectively implementing these AI tools into their work streams. And the reason? Widespread access to advanced AI models is essential to building the efficient, accountable government that taxpayers deserve. And Elon said, thanks to Trump and his administration, xAI's frontier AI is now unlocked for every federal agency, empowering the U.S. government to innovate faster and accomplish its mission more effectively than ever before. We look forward to continuing to work with Trump and his team to rapidly deploy AI throughout the government for the benefit of the country. If you haven't yet seen the video of Delaware's governor lying and backtracking blatantly, it is certainly a sight to see.
We don't just, like, one company leaves and we dramatically change the law.
You're suggesting the law did not change as a result of this Tesla case?
Absolutely not. Absolutely. I mean,
really?
The law you're talking about, Senate Bill 21.
Wow, Twitter's already getting mad at you.
Passed the Senate.
The Delaware governor is lying.
Unanimously.
Changed the law because of Elon.
Listen, we're not making law based on tweets. I hate to break it to you.
No, I know, but
can I be honest with you? I believe if I FOIA'd all of the FOIA, meaning Freedom of Information Act, if I were to get all of the communications between all of the political class in Delaware that voted to change the law.
Which is unanimous in the Senate, bipartisan. Sure. And a supermajority in the House.
The word Elon and Tesla would be in all of the emails.
You should do it, because it wasn't in any of my emails or was not discussed. It's about creating predictability. I apologize to you if people are spending time on social media. You can make
Forget about social media. You understand why people would say, this is a law that is in direct relationship to the Tesla case. You understand why that would be?
Sure, people say all sorts of things that are not accurate.
So why did the law change if it had nothing to do with Tesla?
The law changed because when I came in as governor, we had to make sure that our jurisprudence, that our corporate law, which is preeminent in the world for creating a nonpartisan place for businesses to resolve complex disputes, remained predictable, clear, and fair. And there was a sense in certain transactions we had to revise the law so that it was clear to the judiciary. There was gray in the law. It wasn't about making one case go in one direction or the other.
No, it's not going to. It has no. Unfortunately or unfortunately, it has no impact on that case. But it was in direct relationship to how that case played out.
It was in direct relationships to numerous corporate leaders telling myself, other political leaders in Delaware, and business and corporate leaders, legal leaders in our legal profession, that there was a lack of clarity. There was a gray in the law that was hampering corporate decision-making, not just in Delaware, but in New York and across the globe.
It was kind of to correct, like, what was kind of a mistake for what the end result was, too, right?
Correct. I mean, from a specific case, that's not accurate.
Can't see any other legal reason other than he makes too much money for a court to try to violate a contract entered into by the CEO.
Listen, I can't comment on pending litigation in any way.
Elon said a lot of people thought Tesla stock would collapse as the tax credits came to an end this month. Guess not. And if you ever had questions or doubted what type of value Tesla generates for shareholders, here's a fun fact for you. Tesla went public for 0.1% of its current market capitalization. So I'd say that's some pretty impressive value generation over just the last 13 years. And we have more of the same. Many analysts out here now raising their Tesla stock price targets after Tesla stock has gone on a significant run. Dan Ives and Wedbush boost theirs to $600. Thanks to their view, an accelerated AI autonomous path is now on the horizon next year, and investors are underestimating the major transformation underway. We believe this will be the biggest growth chapter in Tesla's history. Tesla stock closed the day at $440.40, up 4.02%, while the NDX was up 0.44%. The volume was 16% above the average. If you get any value from the work I do here, don't forget you can check out Delete Me. That would be an awesome way to support the channel and of course to protect you and your family. Hope you all have a safe and wonderful weekend. Please like the video if you did. You can find me on X linked below, and a huge thank you to all of my Patreon supporters.